So I've got a problem, and I imagine it's one that a lot of other dice makers run into. It's where when I add glitter or additives to my dice, they just sink to the bottom. That stinks and it's a really annoying problem to deal with, but before we get into the actual problem, let's make some new molds so that we can show the problem off. I've been enjoying using PVC pipes as my mold housing. They're super cheap and they come in a bunch of different sizes, so they really kind of fit dice making to a T. Luckily, you all have given me some extra tips and tricks on how to make that even easier too, which is going to kind of be the theme of this video, but I'll show that a little bit later. Now, I've shown how to make molds out of PVC pipe a couple times now, so I'm going to kind of rapid fire our way through this process, but I will show it off. I place some transfer paper down, which is essentially tape, and I place the dice down onto that transfer paper. That way they can hold themselves steady, and I'm going to add some PVC pipe to the top of that, which I'm going to pre-lube with Vaseline. That way I can get the molds out of there much easier. Apparently my camera thinks I'm in New Mexico or a Breaking Bad episode because it just turned really kind of a bright yellow color. I don't know what was happening there. I had some hot glue around the edges so that when we add silicone, it doesn't pour out the side, and I cut off any excess tape so it's easier to use. Let's go ahead and mix up some silicone now, and we're going to mix up quite a bit of it, and we're not going to waste any drops of silicone here. I get every last bit out of the cups that I possibly can, pour part 1 into a larger cup, and then add part 2 and mix it for about 5 minutes or until my arms are sore. That's a pretty good metric for how much you should mix that stuff. It should hurt. I pour the silicone into the mold housing and around the dice. I don't add all that much to the bottoms of it like I did in the last videos. I want to be able to push these out easier, so I want some thin bottoms on this compared to the thick bottoms that I went with before. I noticed that I had some extra silicone, so I very quickly tried to whip together an extra master mold housing for a chunky D20, because why not? Then I place them in my pressure pot at 40 psi. You only need to do it for 4 hours because that's the cure time of the silicone that I'm using. However, I left them in there for a week because life. It doesn't affect the silicone in any way, so no big deal. After I take them out, I did notice I did have a small leak of some silicone, but luckily silicone is thick, and so it kind of plugged itself up. So fantastic. I can go ahead and take the transfer paper off. It causes no cure issues like some of the regular tape does with the silicone before. I cut off some keys and registration marks, which is essentially just removing some silicone so that your lid has a place to lock into these other molds. Now, here's one of the tips that you all recommended to me, and I should have done it before, but I actually had started this before the last video's comments. I'm going to add some normal tape just to the PVC itself. Adding it to the PVC means where the hot glue sticks, I won't have any issues getting the hot glue off of my PVC. That becomes an issue to where I can't keep reusing the pipes, and so that's been super annoying. So hopefully this tip will make life a little bit easier, and let me tell you, it definitely does. I go ahead and use some more transfer paper to make a dam to put some more silicone on, and I add some hot glue around where the transfer paper goes. That way no more silicone can leak out the bottom. But as you saw before, even if it does, it's really not that big a deal. Hardly any of it leaks all the way through if you do this hot glue stuff. Let's go ahead and add some more Vaseline to our silicone and molds here because we want to make sure that this comes off easy. This essentially functions as mold release, and I'm still going to do that video testing mold release versus Vaseline versus a few other things to find out what's better, but I generally prefer to just use Vaseline. It's cheap and everybody has it in their house. Let's mix up some more silicone. I have to mix up a gargantuan amount. You can add some color to it if you want to be able to differentiate the lid and the base, which I like doing, and of course mine's going to be gold because I like gold. So I pour it over the top. You definitely need really, really thick lids. So this is where you don't want to cheap out and use too little silicone. I almost had to use the whole combo set of it. After I cure it in the pressure pot, it's ready to go, and let's check out this new tape over the PVC to save it from the hot glue technique, and oh my gosh, that was so nice. That was easy, instant, all the hot glue came up. Doing that every single time from now on. Oh, that makes life so much nicer. So with that easy peasy life hacking, now all we got to do is cut off the excess silicone. Like I said, not a big deal. And then we can just push the molds out of the PVC pipe because we pre-Vaselined them, so they come out really, really easily. I'm pretty darn pleased with how these ones turned out. They work well with the set that I had already made with the D20 and the D6 that I've made, and because of the thin bottoms, the dice push out of them much easier than the others. I would definitely still use thick amounts of silicone on the bottom if I was doing a slab mold like I did with the D6s, but for these I didn't. Now I have one of every single one of these dice, and I have a full dice set ready to go. That's a lie. I just lied to you, but I will tell you why that's a lie in a bit. Let's go ahead and start mixing up some resin. I'm going to use Envirotex light resin. It's my preferred resin to use for dice making, but you use whatever you want to use. Mine is 1:1 by volume, and so I mix that up for about 5 minutes until you can't really see any streaks in it. And then I'm going to pour a little bit of it out into a cup because I have a cool idea that I want to try, and we'll see how it works out. So I'm going to take some of this liquid glitter. It's kind of my go-to thing to use. It just makes clear dice pretty because I have this idea of doing a pseudo shell mold using some pigments and things to kind of make a wispy look that I've done before, but with some actual additives to the wisp. The additives that I'm going to use is this really thin purple foil. It's kind of like that gold leafing foil. It is incredibly thin. You could blow on it and break it easily. You actually have to try not to blow on it. You can see here, just picking it up absolutely crumbles the stuff. But it is beautiful, and it like flakes up and shreds nicely. So it looks really great inside of dice. So I like using it, and we're going to add a little bit more to it because I just want more of it. And so I want this little extra bit that I added to be very, very full of this additive. I'm also going to add a little drop of purple alcohol ink because even where the actual foil is, I want the outside of that to be slightly purple as well to give a little bit of hue to it. I'm going to add some pipettes into it. Some people call them pipettes, but those people are wrong. And I'm going to use multiple of them so that I can suck up the resin a little bit more quickly because we're on a time sink here and adding everything in takes a little bit of time. I'm going to fill these molds about 80% full with the clear silicone that has the liquid glitter in it. And we're going to make our faux shell dice, or at least we're going to attempt to, but things will go drastically wrong. I'm going to do this like I did my wispy smoky dice. As I'm pouring out of the pipette, I'm pulling upwards and I'm trying to make essentially like a column or fill the very center of this with this material. It doesn't look like I'm pulling up. I don't know why. I guess the resin just makes it difficult to see, but I'm pulling up as I'm pushing this out, and it completely fills the volume from the bottom to top with this material. It is slightly purple resin filled with this purple foil on the inside. Though the purple foil is light, it is more dense than the resin, so it wants to sink to the bottom, which is the whole problem that we're having here. You can see on the D2, that's kind of what I was going for there. I just wanted all of the stuff in the very center to be that kind of faux shell with the clear resin on the outside of it. That's what I was going for. I pop any surface bubbles with a lighter to help try and avoid any voids on there. And before I show the final results where there are issues, I did learn a skill that I can share with you on how to fix that.
Did somebody say Skillshare?
Yes, obviously I said Skillshare. I was trying to do a segue. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you haven't heard of them, they are the largest online learning community with essentially a buttload of classes, ranging from things like design to photography to music to sports. Essentially, if you want it, Skillshare's probably got a class on it. The classes are interactive. They're very much a learn by doing program, and you can tell that they are made by other really creative people, or at the very least, industry experts. I've used it to learn a myriad of different things, from resin work to editing to how to make my voice even silkier, smoothier, but not necessarily how to use the dictionary. There's literally thousands of topics you could pick from, but I happen to be trying to relearn guitar because I used to play over a decade ago, but I haven't played in a long time. But my daughter really likes it when I bring out my guitar. She thinks it's cool. So I found this guy named Mark Barnacle, and I thought his name was funny. So I picked up his guitar practice class, and it's been really helping me relearn guitar. I used to be fluent at it. I am not anymore. But that's okay. I can relearn, and you can learn some new things, because the first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. Okay, so now that the dice have been curing in the pressure pot for 24 hours, we can talk about what the hell went wrong with my life. I mean, with these dice. Honestly, they are still gorgeous. Purple and silver is a great color combination, and they look really pretty, but the foil sunk to the bottom, and I did not want that. The person that I'm making them for wanted a pseudo shell dice, and so I want to do it right for them. So how do we get that fixed? There are a couple of ways to do it that I know of. One of which is to do the honey stage method. Essentially, as you're pouring the resin, you let it cure. You leave it for maybe about 20 minutes, right until the end of its soft work time, and it starts to thicken up like honey. You can see the D6 on the right here. It started to cure up before the one on the left because it took me a while to work with these, and so some of the resin foil stayed floating, but still a lot of it sunk. It's hard to get that timing right. And so there are better ways to go about doing it. One interesting thing here is I told you I lied. Yeah, I did. I thought I had a normal set of dice. I accidentally made 2 giant chonk molds. So I have 2 of those and no normal size D20. Whoops, I'll just have to go ahead and make another D20 as I do the next video, because I want to show off something that I've found online and that I've learned from other people. You can actually use glue to get a lot of this fixed. Now I want to show that off, but I didn't want to do it in this video because I know there has to be a couple of other solutions that I have not thought of yet. So if you know of solutions besides the honey stage method, or besides the Elmer's glue method, which I was very, very surprised to find out works, but have since tested, and yes, Elmer's glue will work, but I'll show you the secrets to that in the part 2 of this video. But what I want to know is, in the comments down below, how do you fix this problem yourself? I want to try a couple of different methods so that we can do a whole video on fixing the sinking additive or glitter problem that a lot of dice makers have. So if you have ideas and ways that we can share with everybody else on how to fix that, let me know in the comments down below, and I'm going to try my methods, and I'm going to try a couple other people's and make one big collective, here are solutions to it. So let me know in the comments, and I will see you for part 2 of this video. Thank you, and have a fantastic day.